But today I'm going to have a little bit more time to drop it down and break down really the art and the mastery of recruiting. You see, recruiting is one of the things that people are afraid of or fret from doing. But I promise you, if you are willing to master this one skill, not just in this business, you will be able to attain anything and everything you want in life. If you're able to master your words, your body language, and be able to be a good observer and apply action, you definitely can be a success. So with that said, I want to talk about today expanding your organization. You see, recruiting is a big part of our business. Why? Because we understand that, what we do is what we're going to get paid on, right? But remember, there's only one of you, right? So what does that mean? You can only make money when you're doing the actions, right? But if you want to expand your business, you have to kind of change the paradigm shift. My job as a leader, when we're launching brand new leaders, is not to drag you across the start line and drag you across the finish line. My job is to give you a paradigm shift, give you an aha moment to be like, oh, I get it. I see. And I think that's the most valuable thing an upline, a leader, or somebody that's accountable to you can do. You see, becoming wealthy and successful in this business, that's up to you. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? How you do anything is how you do everything, right? I can set the dinner table for you, but it is your job to grab the utensils and put the food in your mouth, chew and swallow. Just like that, I'm giving you the roadmap on how to expand your team. Now, how you apply this, that's where it's going to show the results on your repetition. So you are in the driver's seats. So let's get into gear one and really talk about how to lock in your 10 front lines. So the theory of recruiting, the teaching of recruiting today is not just about in philosophical theory, but I'm going to teach today how to actually apply that in the RIMAN business. All right. So remember, one thing we must accept is how much time does it actually take to become successful here in RIMAN? Let's get out of the way. Okay. So first and foremost, success loves speed. So in this business, it's about creating a burst of intense activity in a short period amount of time. Did you hear that? In a short period amount of time, a burst. Give it all you got, push energy, not slow and steady, but a big push, right? Now, it's kind of like when I was to ask you, how long will it take to paint this room in my house? Can I do it in 2 weeks? Probably. Can I do it in 10 days? Probably. What about 5 days? What about 3 days? What about 2 days? What about in a day? Probably. Could you probably do it in 10 hours? Probably. So what that means is the amount of time is irrelevant in becoming successful or becoming a skillful person in our industry. It's the amount of effort that you must put in. You can go slow, you can go fast, but it's going to be the same amount of effort, right? So with that said, you got to give it all you got for a short period amount of time, right? So slow and steady doesn't work. If you're brand new in this business, you want to have a short period that gives a strong burst. Now, what does that actually mean? It means actually intentionally taking the time to do the things you don't want to do. Okay. Now, when I first got started in this business, I was fortunate enough to have a few leaders hand me the CD. At the convention, you guys might have heard Mr. Danny Bay talking about Mr. Jim Rohn and what kind of a trainer he was. Right now, Mr. Jim Rohn, there's also other leadership training topics that you can learn. Right. It's also called the Challenge to Succeed. This one is a very basic one, right? But I like to emphasize this one because this one's easy. This is an easy commitment, entry level, and it's called Building Your Network Marketing Business. You can listen to this for free on YouTube. But in that CD, it says you talk to 10, you will get one. And using the numbers, law of averages will always work in your favor. It doesn't matter who it is. You talk to 10, you're going to get one. Now, why is that? Why is it that you talk to 10, you get one? The truth of the matter is this. This is why, okay? They were already a yes before you asked them, and they were already a no before you asked them too. What that means is they were never yours to begin with. So it means people you think that are going to do it or not, and the people you think that won't will, right? And what that really means is when you prospect somebody about RIMAN, when they tell you yes, it wasn't necessarily because of RIMAN. It was more so that prospect was already open-minded to an opportunity, maybe had some time, maybe had some disposable income, maybe was hungry or yearning for something, and you just happen to fit that moment in time and meet that crossroad, right? And that can go both ways. Somebody telling you yes and somebody telling you no. So what am I telling you? If you don't quit, you won't fail. All you need to do is at least have a list of 100 people You talk to 10, you're going to get one. So what does that mean? Out of 100, you'll get at least 10 front lines. I gave you the formula how to get your front line. Now, but remember this, okay? You must do the action in creating the list, okay? In our Thursday House of Riemann in-person training, we do this list training. We sit there and write a list with their numbers, okay? When somebody tells me, I don't really have a big list and they show up with like 10 or 12 or 20 people, that tells me they already prejudged somebody and made a decision on someone else's behalf. And that's an indicator whether I want to spend more of my time with somebody, right? But if somebody, whether they get yeses or nos, is diligently writing this list to 100 people, that is when they do the action and you do the leaning forward motion of it, and your team literally backs you in that action and follows suit and does it. That's how the real replication and duplication starts. The actual exercise is what creates a successful culture in a recruiting business. All right. Now, why do we make a list? Because in that list, there is something called NC-DART. It is an acronym called Network, Credibility, Desire, Attitude, Resources, Teachable. What this is in your list, you're going to find somebody that has a great network, right? Somebody that has credibility, somebody that has a burning desire and that's willing to even outwork you, somebody that has the right attitude that might help you get through the hard days, or somebody with resources that will give you some credibility to the naked eye, or people that are teachable, that are hungry and trust you and are willing to follow you because they trust that you'll get them to get where they want to go, right? So remember, every newly enrolled planner will bring a new warm market list to the table, right? This is why there is that saying, it is easier to give birth to new life than raise the dead. Go out there and construct a list. Get that warm market list from your brand new person. Sponsor a brand new person with another brand new warm market list, right? Brand new contacts of people. I'm telling you, if you do the work and actually take the time to compile a list and you duplicate that in your business, watch your business take off like magic. And you're going to meet people that you were never destined to meet if not for this business. Trust me, take action, right? Now, the whole purpose of recruiting people is to teach three things, okay? Get customers, get customer getters, and we teach how to do that. Rinse and repeat duplication. That's all we do. Customer, customer getter, rinse and repeat. Customer, customer getter, rinse and repeat, right? So when we're teaching people how to do these presentations, we recognize everybody has a different style, has a different temperament, and has a different type of a posture, right? But there are three major things that we would like to teach as you start booking your K pop-ups. Now, one thing I want to emphasize is for the new people in the business, start with K pop-ups. Book your K pop-up. Bother your team leader. Call your team leader more than that leader calls you, and book a K pop-up, right? Doing a K pop-up is the most important learning part of the business. Yeah, you want to get new planners. You want to yield something out of that activity. But what's more important is the learning experience of what goes on and learning really what happens in the entire business as a whole. Okay, so what we teach in three segments is number one is basically listen more than you speak. Okay, this is the easiest way I'm gonna break it down. I'm not gonna go into like how to like do it in theory and all that, but pretty much the stage one is God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason. Listen more than you're willing to talk. Why is that? Because if you're giving somebody a time of day and you're willing to hear them, two magical things happen. Number one, somebody that might have been negative all of a sudden reverses and becomes positive, upbeat. They're happy. Why? Because they're expressing themselves. You're giving them a chance to express themselves. Another thing you want to do is ask a lot of questions. Tell me about your family, occupation, recreation, your motivation. Ask a lot of questions and listen in. Then you're going to know what their hot button is, right? Now, get ready for the close. This could be a little bit of aggressive, but what I really mean by getting ready for the close in stage one is just planting the seed that, hey, I'm here genuinely to share some information with you, but you and I both know saying I'll think about it, or I gotta go, talk to my parents or spouse. That's really a nice way of just saying no. So is it safe to say that after all the information, you can give me a straight up answer, right? And usually when you're upfront and honest, more times than not, people have a more open mind because you were candid. It kind of builds a layer of trust. Okay, now stay with me. Now, stage two is intentionally making it a goal to demonstrate the product. So if you're fortunate enough to host a K-pop up, your upline team leader helped you prospect and they set up a date and you're doing your grand opening and you're launching a K-pop up. The whole point here is a spectrum of three things happening. You want to get planners, customers, but also you want to portray that other people can do the business and become a part of the community, right? And really, the reason why we want to emphasize a K pop-up is because a K pop-up, the products will do all the heavy lifting for you. Remember, it is not your job to convince. Your job is to promote, let the product do the work for you, and you act on the results, right? You're not supposed to be a salesman and convince somebody and tell them. No, your job is to share and promote. The product is compelling and good. If it works, it's going to network, right? Now, the reason why we want you to master a K pop-up, yeah, in the beginning, I want you to have the right attitude when you're doing a K pop-up. Don't go into your first K pop-up thinking, I need to sell product. I need to make my money back. That is the wrong mindset to start, okay? We call that quit or retire mentality. Think about it, right? You're so hell-bent and like pressured on making your money back that when you do, you literally give up because you like the goal has been met, right? Or if you have mismanaged expectations in this business, it's easy to quit because you didn't prepare for the long haul, right? So it's very important to lead with the product. Now, stage three, obviously the purpose is to get the commitment, get the sign up, and if they don't know or if they're not sure, always make it a point and ask them to be a customer first. Why? There's many reasons to this, because if they become a customer first, the likelihood of them buying again, they will contact you again. Another thing, it keeps the door open to have a conversation about the business. And the third, once they go through that experience, there is no more convincing involved, right? I know many of you have understood this, right? But remember, as long as you lead with the product, more times than not, likelihood, worst case scenario, 10 out of, 1 out of 10, they're either going to be a customer or a planner. So make sure you lead. Now, in the building process of becoming a director, right? The most important part is to duplicate yourself. And I'm going to say something very brutally honest. Okay. In our industry, we have king makers and then we have kings that want people to follow them, right? So we have people that create leaders and then we have leaders that create followers. Okay. Now, the difference is in how fast you can duplicate yourself. Okay. That's the key. How fast you can duplicate yourself. The leader that duplicates themselves the fastest and the most is the king maker. And in RIMAN, I would call it the master senior manager maker, right? If you take a look at our compensation plan, it is all about what? Senior manager, senior manager, senior manager factory. And that's why the team leader position is so compelling. Why? Because as a low-hanging fruit, 50,000 sales is not that much in a 5-month rolling period. And if you can hit that, it's showing in the comp plan that, hey, you got what it takes to be a leader. And on that low-hanging fruit, you're getting 40% payout on the BP. It's compelling. I've never seen anything like this, right? But in this business, it's all about not how good you train or how public speaking good you are, none of that. What matters is at any given time, how many K pop-ups are happening at any given time, right? At 6:31 p.m. right now, Southern California time, March 27th, how many K pop-ups are happening? I know one's happening in Spain, one's happening in UK, one's happening in Malaysia, Singapore, Las Vegas. Do you get what I mean? So it's not about how good you are, but how fast you can duplicate yourself of a little bit of speakers that can sell and promote these products, right? So in the beginning, how do you duplicate? You got to do the work first. You got to be the leader. Remember, the leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way, right? So as a team leader, what you want to do, most team leaders do this, right? When they launch a brand new planner, team leaders are going to do 90% of the work. They're going to do the prospecting. They're going to answer all the hard questions. They're going to do the presentation. If someone gets mad, they're going to get mad at the team leader, okay? The planner just does 10%. What is that? The inviting, making the list, doing the actual work, right? Why is this team leader having the planner do that? Because at some point when this team leader was a planner, their upline did that to them too. You get what I mean? So you want to do certain activities that self-perpetuate business for you in a replication manner. And it starts with compiling your list, non-negotiable for all the new people. Okay. Now, probably in the second week, I'm doing 70% and my new planner is doing about 30%, maybe some demos still on that list, right? By the third week, I have the new planner doing the demo, talking about the company information, and maybe I'm talking about the pay plan. By the fourth week, I'm watching and supporting, and the new leader, probably a senior manager already on their way to team leader, is doing the work, right? So duplication is the journey from dependence to independence, right? It's not about um, calling your downline every day. It's about the education and the intention of how to build a business. And it's all about what? Replicating yourself, getting customers and customer getters, right? So nothing really changes once you learn how to do a presentation. Once you learn the sequence of the product, you pretty much got it all down. All right. Now, competing with yourself for each new team you frontline and launch and becoming the driver of a brand new open line. Okay, so Mr. Danny Bay talked about this in the leadership training, right? In the team leader, senior manager training, he says, when you sponsor a brand new person, you don't really have a leg. Technically, you have a toe, right? Like a little toe, right? It's not a leg yet. These would be legs running, right? But if you look at every top producer, right, there's a secret in how you build momentum, right? Mr. Danny Bay did this from 20 years ago. When I started 25 something years ago, when I started 19 years ago, I was taught this. But it's about, when I talk about gear one, when I talk about being in the driver's seat, it's not just you being the upline. It's about you mentally creating another version of yourself. Like, you have to have this mental hack in your mind. Now think about it, right? How many times you, while you're building this business, have thought to yourself, man, if I could just find another leader that is just like myself, I could blow it up, right? How many of you have ever thought this, right? We all have, right? But the reality is you got to just be that guy. What that means is when you launch a brand new frontline, this person feels like they became a team leader, but in reality, in actuality, it was the upline that grabbed them and ran with them in that journey, and they did it together. But most of the load was done by the upline because they what? Know the way, go the way, and they show the way. They're replicating themselves, right? So what you really have to do is, we call it tap rooting, right? You grab the new person, grab their list, right? You're gonna get a few people that commit in the business, and then you want all of these people making their list, and you two are attacking the list as you go, being organized. And then about right here, when you get to that third level, you're launching a K pop-up already. Okay. But remember, it's the leader that is driving the business with that person's contact, right? So you don't sponsor somebody expecting somebody, hey, go run and create momentum. Did you book any meetings yet? No, you become the leader, jump in with them, and you ride and drive that leg with the new person by doing these two activities right here. This is all you're doing. Opening up a prospect, conversing, opening them up, getting them happy, open-minded, K-pop up, and close. That's all you're doing. And in these three meetings, in the process of these three meetings, it's just like the new person and the upline is just playing tag. You get what I mean? Or the telephone game in 90, 20, 70, 30, 30, 70, 10, 90. Okay? And all you two are doing, the upline team leader and the new planner, is open, present, and close, duplicate. Open, present, and close, duplicate. This is all we do. Now, regarding the toe becoming a leg, Mr. Timothy, her and I, when we look at our business, we want to make sure every single leg is at 1 million BP open line per leg we're running. Yes, you heard that right. That's how you make national director money. Okay. Every leg running, you want to make it a goal. Every single person we sponsor, that leg needs to have a million BP open line, million BP open line, million BP open line, million BP open line. And I hope we're going to get some good news about the company maybe releasing some new ranks, but this is how you do it. This is how the pros do it. If you want to turn a toe into a leg, you got to become the leader. Literally, you have to literally create a ghost version of yourself, thinking you recruited another you, and you have to act as if this in itself is your business, and you run with that person. And your job is to find list after list after list after list after list after list, and you're pulling new lists. Okay. Warm market list. This is how you create momentum in building a distribution channel. Okay. Now, we did this with bad products years ago, but can you imagine with a sellable, retailable product here in RIMAN, where the product does the heavy lifting? It's just too easy. That's why people with no experience in this day and age are coming on board, and they're seeing massive success. Okay. Step-by-step process of enrolling a prospect. All right, let's talk about closing. All right. Let's talk about the dreaded all-time favorite excuse. I need to think about it. How many of y'all heard that? I need to think about it. Well, let me be the deliverer of bad news. Okay. Nobody just goes home and thinks about it. Okay. Nobody's going to tell you, all right. What a great K-pop up. I'm gonna go home and think about it, and maybe I'll call you in 3 days after I think about it. Ain't nobody doing that. Ain't nobody doing that. Okay. So when you hear I want to think about it, don't get discouraged. Don't be like, when you hear, oh, I gotta think about it. You've like spent like 30 minutes doing this presentation. You did like a demo, and then it's time to close. And then they're like, oh, I gotta think about it. And you're just like, oh, it's like so draining. Oh my goodness. But rest assured, do not be discouraged. Okay. At this moment, you must figure out the one of two. They don't want to buy, or they do want to buy. Simple as that, right? Some will, some won't, some wait. So what? Who's next? Okay. It's normal. It's natural. No is a part of the business. Why? Because being rich ain't for everybody either. You guys hear what I said? Being rich, being successful ain't for everybody either. It's for the people that want it. Why are we all here? We all come from different walks of life, right? But how did we all get here? Because we have one goal in common. Where we want to go is the same. You guys understand this? So let me be very clear. At this moment, when someone tells you you need to think about it, you need to get into the let's figure this out. Now, if they don't want to buy, you'll know the indicator. You'll see it in the body language, right? They're going to be negative, arms crossed, right? You know, maybe slightly cross-eyed. I don't want to be here. Somebody's pitching me, right? You'll see it in the body language, okay? Now, if they do want to buy, guess what? They're still there. They're not leaving, right? They're just, it's just kind of like in a limbo. That's when you have to find what the unvoiced concern is, right? Is it they want to buy, but maybe it's because financially, maybe, 9 out of 10 times it could be the money. A lot of missed chances come from failed awareness. Okay, now, here's what I want to tell you in this part of the close, okay? You have to be a chameleon here. When you get to the I need to think about it, you have to have a little bit of street smarts, not book smarts, but street smarts to see the temperature, right? You have to see it in multifacets. Can this person afford these products, right? Can they afford $300? Can they afford $1,000, $1,500, right? Can they afford it, right? Now, remember, if you're thinking about buying skincare products to use, that could be a little bit pressure. But if you're thinking about buying skincare products to run a business, that's a great upside. You get what I mean? So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Okay. It's the delivery. Now, remember this. Okay. Now, when they're there, if you can catch that maybe it's a money issue, the best thing is to remove the fear, remove the pressure. And what the approach I like to take is it's okay. You don't have to buy 1,000 or 1,500, let alone even a 300. If you can't afford it, that's okay too. Just buy one product that you could start an experience. Now, disclaimer, you will not get glass skin with one product, right? But it's a start. Why do I take this approach? Because it's the attitude of squeezing every last juice out of that pulp. What that means is even that prospect right then and there, even if they can't buy a $300 pack, I'm okay if they're going to sign up for $20 and maybe buy a $60 pack. I'm okay with that. Why? Because I know deep down that products are so good. And once they learn more and the paradigm shift happens, I can't stop them from buying more. You guys understand this, right? And the second part is this, right? It's like, what's more important than making a sale is getting someone's commitment and getting their time investment into the business with you. Their time investment, the activities, the list, right? So you want to be a little bit, have some discernment here, a little bit about like, if they don't want to be respectful, but if they're still interested, but the unvoiced concern, if it's a money issue, make them comfortable. Entry level where they feel comfortable, get in where you fit. And why? Because we can upgrade and make it better as we go, right? So remember, it's all about having the discernment, figuring out one of the two. When someone says, I need to think about it, don't give in and just say, okay, think about it, call me when you're ready. Don't do that. So many missed opportunities happen by not having the discernment here. All right, so let me explain this. Okay, why do top producing planners, directors, senior directors, national directors, or top money-making team leaders, the consistent top earners that are team leaders, why do those planners get rejected way more than you and still win? Think about that. How is that possible? How is it that these people get way more no's than you and they are able to win? Why? Because top producers play on a different playing field, completely different outlook, different attitude, different mental mindset, guys. Okay. So let's talk about a predictable closing formula, how we can GPS you, how we navigate a close. Okay. Now, I like to call it asking a closing question, right? What this means is, did you see yourself becoming successful? Did you see yourself traveling the world? Did you see yourself so and so and so, right? But it's because you asked a lot of hot buttons, asked a lot of rhetorical questions. And during the close, I like to not acknowledge, but I like to encourage staying quiet, asking, did you see a way? Because a lot of times, we're so busy like pushing our narratives down someone's throat. We sometimes you miss the whole point, right? But by letting them speak, you're gonna be able to hear those voiced concerns. Right now, going to step two, it's an assumptive close. You have the assumption that obviously they're gonna get started. That attitude that obviously you're getting started, right? And in order for them to feel a little bit comfortable, because most people like to go with the flow, I like to sometimes help fill out their applications, right? Like, cash your card, what's your name, address, how would you like to get delivered? And I ask a lot of comforting questions. Why? And again, like I said, helping people get started where they feel comfortable most, right? But reality is don't forget to ask about starting high, about the premium set. Why? Because ultimately you get to set the tone and decide what you get paid on for your time, right? And ultimately what you decide is what's going to duplicate, right? I'd rather take the business and having someone commit their time, but also if I can, I would want to aim high because I want quality people coming in. I want people paid, and I want to be paid the most for my time. Now, when we get to step three, isolating objections, this is where confidence matters, right? Objections start to happen because people haven't had the paradigm shift yet. Maybe they don't have an understanding, right? But it's important to have posture, confidence, lead with a sense of urgency and fear of loss, but honesty and full disclosure. Okay. See, when you like to isolate objections, it's because people, they want to know and they want assurance. They want the landmines removed. And once you do that, I think that is the starting point for somebody to fully commit to the business. All right. Now let's talk about step four, which is cushion. Now, when people are voicing their concerns, what I found that helped is relating with people, right? I know how you feel. I felt the same way, but here's what I found out. If you become a part of the system is going to help you build the business, right? Or here's what I found out. These products are world class. Did you know we're a German Dermatist certified product, one of the cleanest products? Did you know we're the number one K-beauty? Did you know we're the number one exported K-beauty in the world right now, right? Step five, overcoming objections. People will be afraid not to join you if they know you knew where you're going. If they're still wanting in, it means convince me again. Again, overcoming objections. Again, when someone gives you an objection, it means they're interested. Okay, don't take it the wrong way. It means they want you to remove the fear. Now, step six obviously is receiving the payment, but this is like, in the receiving payment part, it's very simple, right? Because we're people that have no experience in sales, or when you're new in the beginning, asking somebody for their money is quite awkward, right? But the attitude you should have, or the outlook, is kind of like if you go to the market, like at Stater Brothers, Vaughn's, or you go to 7-Eleven, when you go to the cashier, what type of attitude do they have? It's as if, right? Like obviously as if, right? That's the posture and confidence that we're talking about. All right. So there is a very simple formula that is going on in someone's head when they actually commit and tell you a yes. A person's mind subconsciously looks for three things for you to have a higher closing average conversion. First is the reason. Does it make clear logical sense? And is it a clear reason why I should actually do this? Profit. They must believe what they get is worth more than they are willing to give. Doable. The actions needed for success. They must be able to execute. So when offering starter sets, find the balance between affordability and the best value. But remember, all three of these must be met in order for you to get a yes. If not, you will get a no, and you should go back to the drawing board and really think, what were the three parameters possibly that weren't met, right? Now, you want to do this mental exercise in your head, and as you prospect and go through K pop-ups and recruiting sessions and sit downs over and over and over and over, all of a sudden, a sudden type of a control and instinct is going to take over. Now, remember, every no is actually a clue. So what do I need to change to turn this into a yes, right? Don't be thrown off by rejection. Make sure you use it as an indicator, a temperature gauge, right? Check what criteria was not met. Now, timing. Remember, no simply means not now. No doesn't mean no. So in the interim, make sure you ask them to be a customer, because that will play the ultimate hook, the ultimate follow-up, right? It'll lead them to be a long-term consumer because they got, world-class glass skin, or they're like, what that person was saying was actually real. I'm interested in the opportunity, right? So remember, treat a no as if it means not now and not a no. Okay, it's all timing. Now, let me talk about closers, right? Naturally, people that are good at getting the yeses. There are three phases that you're going to go through in your career. Now, whether you're a man or a woman, based on your personality and your energy, it's going to come out the way you're destined to be based on your personality type. But usually, people that start to get good in the business, they are good at selling features. These are people that are system orientated. They're very coachable. They're like a sponge, and they pretty much did every single thing their upline did. They said laugh at the funny jokes. They laughed. They said cough. They coughed. Every single thing they did, they made it a point to replicate and duplicate their leaders, right? So good closers, what do? They lead with product confidence, right? They sell the RIMAN story. They sell the polished sheer pitch, right? What about also being product orientated? Also, they lead with the opportunity. This is what I would call like a senior manager that has momentum on their way about to pop to team leader, right? Now, what is a great closer? Now, great closers are like top producing team leaders and newly promoted directors, right? These types of leaders have kind of been refined through the fire, right? And because they were refined through the fire, it's kind of like these leaders are at a place where it's facts tell, stories sell, documentation beats the conversation, meaning they're consistent, they're persistent, they're system driven, goal orientated, and they hit their goals. And they are very, very action orientated leaders. So what do? They like to flex, right? So when you see leaders that flex, they sell their outcome, they're good at selling the outcome. A lot of times, this is where the posture kicks in, the confidence kicks in. This is where people see your S class. They see that new Chanel bag, they see the new Birkin bag from Hermes. Oh, you got a new necklace, right? A new Chanel sunglass, right? When people see these things, it's not to brag, but it's to show the outcome of hard work. You can get these things too, right? That's why you see a lot of flexing in our industry. But after a while, then you see the mega $1 million earners, the big earners, right? The elite earners of our industry or in our company, and I call them elite closers. And what these elite closers are really, really good at, whether it's at a convention, on a stage, or a Zoom meeting, or in-person training, elite closers are amazing at selling you feelings. Now, what I mean by that, it's the transfer of emotion, the posture, right? We often talk about coming to a convention, and that's where the transfer of emotion happens. Why? Because you have elite leaders that have walked the walk, talked the talk, know the way, go the way, and show the way. Everything you're going to do, every mistake you're going to make, every mistake you ever made, your upline leader already has done that. That is when these leaders know how to transfer emotion. And that's when they're selling you that feeling, right? And that's and elite closers, what they're really good at is not only getting the conviction or the commitment, but giving you the paradigm shift, the aha moment that you need. So these are the three types of closers. I want you to strive to get to being an elite closer. All right. So with that said, if it's meant to be, it is up to me. What I want to say with this is smart people care too much about the risks. I wouldn't say I'm smart. I would like to say I worked my way, I worked my tail off. Whereas regular, ordinary people, they see the upside. And when I say they see the upside, it opens naturally more opportunity and gives that person a greater chance of success because they see the positive outlook, the return on that investment, right? So make sure you make a decision and take a bet on yourself. So in closing, I want to share with you a unique story that I actually told several times. It's the amazing classic Disney story, right? In our industry, you're going to hear this story once in a while. Mr. Danny Bay has told it. Mr. Tim Herr has told it. I've told it. We've told these stories at the Anaheim Convention Center when we had our Anaheim events. But the reason why I'm going to share this story tonight is I actually found the footage and the video of the story that we tell. Okay. And I'm from Orange County, California. My last house was in the city of Orange. I'm in Yorba Linda, California, which is Orange County. But I'm going to tell you the story of a gentleman named Art Linkletter, and he has ties to the Disney Corporation and Walt Disney. But he tells a very unique story. So he was Walt Disney's best friend in the 1950s. And one day, so this guy was a producer. As you see, he's a television producer. He's a host. He worked for ABC channel. And one day he was up in Northern California and he was filming a TV show because he's a producer and he's the host. And he gets a call from a friend named Walt Disney. And Walt Disney calls him and says, "Hey, Art, I have a special opportunity that I want to share with you." And Art says to his friend, "Walt, I'm just too busy. I'm in Northern California. I can't go." And Walt is like, "No, I'm not going to take no for an answer," right? Some of you have seen Mr. Timmer's Train, right? Not taking no for an answer. I'm not going to take no for an answer, right? Being pushy. You need to get here. You have to come see this, okay? There is not a lot of time left. This is what Walt Disney was doing to Art Linkletter. He was pressuring him, hard closing him. Get to Anaheim, California by in the next 2 days. I'm going to be here. You need to be here. Be here. So Art, unfortunately, he couldn't say no, and reluctantly, angrily, he takes this 7-8 hour drive down to Orange County. And when he drives down to Orange County, he gets to the city of Anaheim. You see, the reason why we call it Orange County is because Orange County used to be farmland and just a bunch of orange groves and orange trees. And as Art Linkletter arrives in Anaheim, he arrives at a construction site where there's just a bunch of plowed out piece of land. And what he sees is this view right here, getting ready to build Disneyland. This video was shown at the 10th anniversary. And as they do this, Art sees all this construction going down. He sees all the plans happening, all the vision being envisioned. And Walt Disney takes him around the entire property of this so-called supposed to be Disneyland, the magical, happiest place on earth. And he takes them for a few hours walking around. That's Walt Disney walking, measuring. This is where this is going to be. This is going to be Small World. This is going to be the Matterhorn. This is the actual video of Walt Disney, walking on the raw property with his vision, right? And he tells him, this is where this is going to be. We're going to walk over here. And he is excited. He's just painting a vision to his dear friend, right? And he's showing him all the way up here. This is where this is going to be, right? And he showed him a vision, right? He showed him. Now, this part is the actual view. Well, this is from the camera where Walt Disney walked around and he said, this is where this is going to be. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry. This is, he takes him around, this is, imagine he took on the top screen, he takes Art Linkletter around the whole property, right? This is where the castle's going to be, the new Neuschwanstein style castle. That's the Matterhorn. This is going to be Main Street. So as he's walking along this property, he's telling Art Linkletter his vision and his goal. He's telling him exactly what's about to go down. And as this is going down, Art starts to get frustrated and mad, right? And during this time, Art pulls out a checkbook and he says to, Walt Disney, "All right, man, this is a crazy idea. I don't know who from LA is going to drive down an hour down to the boonies, to the countryside, to some amusement park. I don't know who's going to do that. But, you're my friend. How much money do you want? I'll let you borrow the money." And Walt Disney says, "No, Art, put your money away. The money's already been syndicated by ABC. Okay. It's all been taken care of." And and reluctantly, Art, he puts his checkbook away, relieved, and he says, "Thank you, but I think I'm gonna pass." And reluctantly, he says no, and he walked away, angry, thinking that he wasted his time that whole entire day. Okay, he was so mad. Now, as he left, a few months later, he gets a phone call from the ABC News network saying, "Hey, aren't you best friends with Walt Disney? Your buddy Walt Disney, he's opening up a brand new amusement park and it's going to be a major success, a major success. But since you're his best friend, do you think maybe you can do the opening show and interview Walt for the grand opening of Disneyland?" And guess what? I found that footage of him doing the opening show. Okay, so he passed on an opportunity.
25 years ago, perhaps the most popular motion picture star in Hollywood. I'm standing here on the railroad tracks with helicopters roaring overhead and cars parking by the thousands, and I'm in front of the big Disneyland and San.
All right, so that is the actual opening day of Disney, and he passed on a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And many years have passed, and they interviewed this guy, and he talks about this opportunity that he passed up. And later in the interview, he says, There were countless nights where I tossed and turned, I couldn't sleep. And I calculated how much money I missed out on um, that day when Walt Disney gave me that proposal. And the calculation I made was every walk, from the moment I told Walt no, and every step I took back to my car, every step costed me $10 million that I missed out on. And that property today, ladies and gentlemen, is the coveted California Adventure land that Walt Disney was talking about. He was telling his friend, that land right there, okay, I want you to buy this land. It's worth pennies on the dollar. One day it's going to be worth billions. That's why I called you. I want you to buy this land. And guess what he said? I'm all right. And he passed on it, right? That land today is California Adventure. So what I want to tell you guys is this. The moral of the story is opportunity comes in mysterious ways. It doesn't come like a knight in shining armor. I'm a multi-million-dollar opportunity. It comes in a way where you least expect it. And the person that is wise enough to identify and take action on it is the person that will be successful. Even a guy like me, right? I was a K-pop guy. You know, I have a great story, but at the end of the day, I was a broken person. I was broken, famous, leaving an industry with no future, no hope, no direction, right? But I came across an opportunity. I grabbed it, I took it, and I ran, right? So this is an opportunity. As long as you can identify it, identify a paradigm shift for yourself, you can be successful. So here's the call of action, okay? Call to action. It's the handful of new recruits that can make or change your career. Every leader's business was once in a slump, but how they overcome it was focusing on finding a handful of new recruits. Become the driver of your business and sponsor 10 frontlines. Why 10? Because if you sponsor 10 from the jump, you're set up to be a manager. You're set up to be a senior manager. You're set up to be a team leader. You're set up to be a director, senior director, and national director, while maintaining open line and having a fat commission. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for being on, taking the time to learn the wonderful steps of recruiting on your pathway to director. So with that said, thank you so much for taking the time to be on. God bless. We will see you next week. Have a great weekend and have fun. We'll see you at the top.